Hi there and welcome to this video about creating and displaying variables in youSRC. Now there's a whole bunch of reasons why we might want to use variables in our programs. Don't forget, variables are there to help us store values that we might find useful. Now for example, we might want to store values that we might want to use in calculations or in animation. We might want to store variables to control time. We might want to use them in games as an example for keeping track of scores, or for keeping track of the health of characters as an example, or the speed that we want them to move, etc. So a whole load of reasons why we won't want to use them. So let's just sort of go ahead and actually create a variable. Now when we create a variable in youSRC, we can either make that variable local or global. Now we will go through global variables at a later point, but at the moment really we're just focusing on local variables, which means that they can only be used in the function where we declare them. So in this case, if I'm declaring a variable here, then this variable can only be used inside of the start function. So let's see how this works. So I'm going to use the local keyword. Okay, local. Notice it goes green, so they know that that's a keyword. So local. And then I give it its name. So in this case I'm going to use this as a variable for keeping track of a score in a game. So I'm going to call this user score. Okay, so local user score. Now what that's done is it's declared the variable, which basically means that it has created the variable in memory, a little space, in this case for a number. Okay, and it's given it a name, user score. So that's what we've actually done there. We've declared the variable. We've actually sort of defined it as well. We've defined it to be a number variable. So local user score, and then I'm going to need to be able to actually put a value into the variable. Now when we first put a value into a variable in a program, it's called initializing the variable. So I'm going to use the let keyword now, and let say user score equal let's say 8. Okay, now what I've done there is yes, I've initialized the variable, but I've initialized it using what's called an assignment statement. So whenever we place a value inside of a variable, it's called assigning a value to that variable. And what it does is it basically takes the value on the right hand side of the equals and moves it into, if you like, the variable on the left hand side of the equals. So we've actually sort of taken this number 8, this value, and placed it inside of that little space in memory that's named user score. So that's done that. Now let's sort of show how we might display that. So we're going to use a graphics function, so gfx dot writeLine. Okay, so gfx dot writeLine. And that is a function in youSRC whose job is to display whatever we put inside the brackets on its own line on the output. So gfx writeLine, and I'm just going to put in there user score. Okay, so basically what my program is doing, just to summarize it, is to say, right, we've created a local variable called user score. Okay, we have used an assignment statement here using the let keyword, and that's placed the number 8 inside of that variable, and now we're going to try and print to the screen whatever is inside of user score. So if we save this source and check it out, okay, there we go, and play that, and there we go. So there's our variable there. So that was a video on creating and displaying variables in youSRC. Enjoy.